Cozy Puppet, and this is my ultimate housing guide. This guide is meant to act as a great resource for those of you who are starting with housing now that Midnight is launching, and we will be going over the following topics. So make sure you have snacks and a drink because we'll be learning a lot today. To open your housing dashboard, you can press H by default, or you can click this house icon down here. When you open your house dashboard, you can see the owner of your house, you can see your XP level, you can see your Endeavor tab, which we'll go over a little bit later. You can also see your Decor catalog, which we'll go over a bit later as well. And then there is the house finder. This drop-down menu will have your 2 houses that you can own. Yes, you can own 1 house in the Alliance neighborhood and 1 house in the Horde neighborhood. Also, you are able to visit both regardless of your faction. Only the owner of the house has to be the same faction as where it's located, so you are able to visit the Horde neighborhood still with your Alliance characters, but the owner has to be a Horde character. All you really need is just gold to buy the plot and you're all set. Your 2 houses will have separate experience levels though, so you will be working on both of them separately, and we'll talk a bit more about this during the Endeavor section. Now, when you click the House Finder button, you can see this map, and on the left side you can see all the different neighborhoods that you can be a part of. You can be a part of your guild neighborhood, or you can be a part of a public neighborhood. There's also a third type, which is the charter neighborhoods. When you're scrolling through these neighborhoods, and if you cannot find your favorite plot, you can refresh with the refresh button. This way you should be able to find your favorite plot available somewhere. Then you'll be able to visit that plot and claim it. The difference between these 3 different neighborhoods is written on the screen, and you can choose based on what you wish. You can start your own neighborhood, or you can join a guild one, or just a public one, which gives you more flexibility with where you want to live. As often in guilds and in charter neighborhoods, your plot is very permanent and you can't really move around a whole lot. When you're being invited into a charter neighborhood, the invite will show up here in the neighborhood list. So it will be at the top, and you can just choose to accept it and then teleport to that plot that you have been given, or if you have chosen one, and that's it. Next we'll be going over the exterior UI when you are on your plot. Here we have the information about your plot. You can set your settings and permissions. You can see your house owner, you can change it. You can also relinquish your plot. You can set the access for your plot and your house separately, so you can let anyone in, or you can just let your guildies, for example, or people that are in a party with you. When you click on the Edit House button at the top bar, you will be opening a new UI, which is the main UI that you will be using when you're building. On the left we can see the storage, where you have all of your items that you have collected. You can choose an item and then just place it on the ground or wherever you see fit. This storage comes with a filter, of course, and there are many different options. So by default, as you can see, the indoor items are tagged off. When you're working with your exterior, there are certain limitations in place where you cannot place, for example, lighting items currently. But yesterday we actually got some news regarding that, so we'll be going over that in the end of the video. Now, there are many different categories for you to choose from when you are building. That makes it easier to find items, as we are going to end up with a lot of decor items over the next months even. This makes it a lot easier to find specific items, and of course there's also a search bar at the top, which will work pretty well if you, for example, want to see only Horde themed items. You can write Horde at the top. It will give you pretty accurate results. Now on the bottom bar you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's the floor plan button. On the top right corner you can see your place decor, and you will have a budget of 250 when you're working with the exterior. Now, when you click that Edit House Exterior button, which looks like the floor plan button, it opens a new sort of view for you to edit your exterior. In this view, you can see that there are some nodes on the walls and the roof of the house, and then there are different options to choose from on the right, such as the house type. You can choose between a Night Elf house and a human house currently in the Alliance, and in the Horde you can choose between the Orc house style or the Blood Elf house style. There will be different house styles coming in the future surely, but this is what we're working with currently. And just for showcase purposes, I'm going to be going with the Night Elf house style today. This is what it looks like when it is just there by default. And on the right side, as you can see, you can change a whole lot of settings regarding this house. So you can change the house size once you level up your house, and for this you need the house XP. You can also change the base style of your house between a few different options. For night elves, there's the stone option, the embellished option, and the woodland option. You can also change the roof style separately, and you can choose between a rustic roof, a woodland roof, or the embellished roof. You are also able to change the roof color separately, and there are many different options, but you have to change the color of the entrance roof separately. Now, if you want to change your entryway to match, for example, the embellished style, you can click on it and then you see a big list of options to choose from. So you can have embellished entryways in the all same colors as the roofs, and you can move the entryway around as well. It's also important to note that if you have chosen a bunch of different options for your walls and your roof, if you change your house type now to the human house style, it will get rid of everything that you have done. So just keep that in mind when you are building. Once you're happy with the exterior style, you can start building. And truly, at this point, the world is your oyster. You can do anything you want. There are very little limitations as to what you can do. You can put plants on the roof, you can put any object up on the roof, you can even lift your entire house if you want to. You can also make portal doors and all sorts of cool things. You can put trees inside of your house to make sort of a tree house. Truly, the world is your oyster and you are free to build whatever you want. It's going to take time to get used to the controls. It's okay. Just take your time, enjoy the journey. There's so many more decor pieces coming in Midnight now. Just take your time, play with it. Housing is not a competition. Tiny pro tip here to the end, you can actually fly while you are editing your house, but you might want to keep in mind that the dragon flying is maybe not the most ideal way to be decorating. You can use it to get up to the roof, but there is another way to make decorating much easier. If you go to your mount collection, you can find a button that changes your flight style. You can set your flight style to the steady flying, which will help you decorate from up in the air. It's also very helpful because you can look at your build from a bit further away and just get a different perspective, and that helps a lot. As you can see, it also helps placing items in places that you might struggle seeing if you're just standing on top of the roof. You can decorate while you're inside of the boundaries of your plot, but if you fly out, it will take you out of the edit mode, so just be careful with that. Now for my fellow druid mains, I do have also a tip for you. The same obviously applies when you are in your flight form, so you are able to just swap between forms and that makes life a lot easier. Just make sure that you set your flight style to the steady mode. Now, you may have noticed that it's actually evening, and decorating while it's dark is kind of tricky sometimes. Luckily, I have a couple of tips for you to use. So, if you go to your toy box, you can see if you have a toy called Jar of Sunwarmed Sand. This will make it daytime, but as you can see, it has a 1-day cooldown and it only unfortunately lasts for 2 hours, and I don't know about you, but I tend to build a lot longer than that during the evenings. There's another item that you can use that is actually much brighter as well, the Stinky Bright Potion. You can craft this yourself or you can buy it from the auction house and it makes things even brighter than what the toy does. It lasts for longer than that, there's no cooldown on it, you can use as many as you want. This trick will also work if it is raining currently in your neighborhood and it gets pretty dark when it's raining, so it might help you out even in that situation. I prefer the Stinky Bright Potion more because I build for longer periods of time and it has no cooldown. Now we can move into the interior. Only one person can use the front door at a time, so if you are in a situation where many people are going to tour a house, sometimes people make lines and it's polite to wait for your turn. And let's get started with the interior UI now. When you first enter, you might want to take a look at your floor plan. You will be starting off with just the entry and a tiny little room with a fireplace, if I remember right, and some crates on the floor. You will be offered a starting quest and I think you definitely should do that. That will help you out a lot to just get started. But we'll go through all of those things as well in this guide, so don't worry if you already skipped it or if you forgot what it said. We'll go over all of that stuff again. So as you can see on the UI, you have your room shapes on the left side in the panel. And when you're starting out, you will notice that you don't have as many room shapes maybe as I do. And that is because you need to level up your house to get more room shapes. So if you open your housing dashboard, you can see the level of your house and you can see all of the different rewards you will gain from doing that. This panel is very similar to the reputation panels that we have now. It is basically the same exact thing. You have an experience bar that you fill and then you gain rewards from that. But just to get started, you can work with the rooms that you have been given in the start. You can level up your house in your own time. So as you can see, when you're looking at the floor plan, there are these nodes on the sides of the room. This is where you can connect new rooms. So you can just click on the node and then select a room from the panel on the left. And basically you are just able to add more and more rooms from those nodes. The only thing you really need to keep in mind is that there is a budget for room placement. All of the rooms have different sorts of values, how much they cost on the budget. That is the only thing keeping you from adding, a million different rooms. As you can see, you can have also multiple floors in your house. So in order to get to the second floor, you have to add a stairwell room. This will also allow you to have rooms on the second floor. A little tip for my fellow druids, you can shapeshift inside and you can use your travel form or your cat form to get around. If you have wild charge, you can jump up higher on top of some items that you normally wouldn't be able to jump on top of. This obviously applies for demon hunters as well, or anything with a movement ability that lets you just get your character up on high ground. As you can see, we are on the second floor now in a room that I added to the stairwell room. You are still also able to add another stairwell room on the other side, so technically you can go back downwards or you can also go higher up to the third floor. And now we added an empty stairwell room. The difference here is that it does not have a stairwell. This room is very, very versatile. You are able to build your own stairwell if you want, and you can make builds with a little bit more height to it. But yeah, technically now we've made a nice little loop with the stairwells. And also if you want to go upwards, I will show you how that works as well. So first of all, let's just delete the empty stairwell room so you can see how it works. Here we are going to be adding a normal stairwell. And you can choose if you want it to go upwards or downwards. And there it is. Now we have created a third floor. Now I actually went and tested how many floors you can actually have in your build, and turns out it's 6. Honestly, as someone who does not like heights, this made me actually feel kind of uncomfortable. But you could also do this with the empty stairwell rooms, and then you could just build a really tall build. It is also possible for you to move your rooms around, but there are specific limitations with that. As you can see, the daylight circle room is fairly big, so you won't be able to move that around as freely. With the smaller rooms, it's a lot easier to move them around, as they don't really clip into other things as easily. But what I would recommend doing is just make a floor plan before that you are truly happy with, because you don't have much choice afterwards to move things around. So currently this square room has 2 rooms linked to it, and one of them is not linked to anything else. So you won't be able to move the square room anywhere or delete it. Now there is also a button for rotating your rooms. This is especially useful with this L-shaped room and the T-shaped room. Just keep in mind that you won't be able to rotate them if they are next to another room. What I tend to do is adding buffer rooms in between some areas that I want to work with, just so that I can add more to those. So I really like using, for example, just square rooms right after the entry, so I can go 3 different ways. Sometimes people move their front door, and sometimes they even delete it. So what do you do in a situation where you can't find the front door and get out of someone's house? Don't worry, you won't be stuck there forever. So at the top of your screen there is a button that says Exit House. You cannot use it in shapeshift form though. Once you click the button, you will cast Exit House, and then you will be teleported outside of the building. Alright, let's add some rooms to your build. So now when you go into the edit mode, we'll go over the UI here. So let's start with the decorate mode. This comes with 2 settings, snap to grid and also enable clipping. So to demonstrate what these things mean, we will be placing a couple of items and playing around with these settings. Let's use this bar item that we have. It's called the Arathi Bartender Shelves, and you can get it by doing a quest called To Kill a Queen. Now let's activate snap to grid. This means that you will not be able to move the item freely, but it will be snapping to a grid. And to activate this grid, or toggle the grid, you press X. Now you can also use your mouse wheel to rotate the piece of decor that you're working with. Now if you want to rotate the item that you're working with, then you can use your mouse wheel, but there's also another tool that we can use to be a little bit more accurate with it. We'll go over that in a moment. Now if you turn the snapping off, you can move the item much more freely wherever you want. And as you can see, we have clipping not enabled. So if I'm adding another item next to it, there will be collision and it's not allowing me to place it next to it. So if you press V by default or just click the icon, you can enable clipping, and that allows you to place items inside of each other. I would absolutely recommend the first thing you do when you start building is just enabling clipping, because that will not be any help to you if you have collision. Next we'll move on to the advanced mode, that's keybind 2. And this one has 3 different settings or options to use. There's Shift 1, Shift 2 and Shift 3. Shift 1 is the move tool. This allows you to move your item with more precision. You can move it upwards or downwards, you can move it to the side or forwards or backwards. This tool is great for doing small little movements and adjusting your items properly to place, as well as sinking them down into the ground or to the ceiling. Items can be also clipped straight into a wall, partially. Next we have the rotate tool. Now this tool you will be probably using a lot. So you can actually angle things perfectly and be very precise. And if you are clicking shift at the same time as you are rotating, you are able to snap the rotation angle. So this allows you to have multiple items in the same exact angle. Also, here's your reminder to check the underside and the top or the back of some items, because they have some very interesting textures sometimes that you can use for things you would have never used this item for otherwise. Now next we will be going over the scale tool. So as you can see, you can scale things down to 20% or up to 200%. This is also a tool that allows you to get really creative with items that you wouldn't normally use for other things. Now, if you want to just reset your scaling, or maybe you're not happy with the rotation angle, you can just click the reset button. You can do this obviously also with the rotate tool, as sometimes it might get a bit tricky getting back to the original state, and you don't always want to go and start all over. Next we have the third keybind, customize mode. This allows you to dye items. You cannot dye every single item in the game. The items from the neighborhood vendors are often dyeable, then some of the futures items will be dyeable as well. But many of the items that you get from achievements or from prior expansions, those sort of assets, you cannot dye. So just as an example, let's use this elegant bed. This is an item from the neighborhood vendors and you are able to dye this item. So go to the customize mode and click on the item. There you can see you have max 3 dye slots. So you have all of these color options that you can use, but they all require you to have dye. You can also hide the unavailable ones, so it shows you the dyes that you have in your bags or maybe in your bank. Unfortunately, the dye is an actual item that will be in your bags or in your bank, so it will take quite a bit of space if you are trying to buy all of the different colors. Maybe just start with a few. Next, I think we should take a look at your housing keybinds. Many people actually are not aware that you have your completely separate keybinds for housing. So when you go to your options menu, you can find your key bindings there and scroll down, and then there are the housing specific keybinds. I have changed a couple of my keybinds from the default ones. Specifically, I have added a delete keybind to remove decor, and then I have changed the scale decor up and down keybinds to 9 and 8. By default, I think those are the bracket keys, and I don't have those in my keyboard as I'm using a Nordic keyboard layout, so I thought that 9 and 8 were pretty easy because I use those in other games as well. You can do more with the customize tool as well than just dye items. You can use it to change the style of the walls, the ceiling, and the floor. When you click the floor with the customize tool, you open a new panel with all sorts of options for your floor material. Now you will see that all of the customization options for the walls, the ceiling, and the floor are all sort of themed after humans, orcs, night elves, and blood elves. With the ceilings, you can see that there are the different ceiling styles and the different ceiling materials to work with, but there is also a ceiling type. There's a normal ceiling type as well as a vaulted ceiling type. Now, the ceiling type is very interesting because if you change the ceiling style afterwards, it will change the ceiling entirely from what it looked like when it was normal. So I recommend you play around with this a little bit and get a feel for it and just see what it all looks like with the different materials and styles, because there are some amazing designs to be made here. Now, let's get started with placing actual items now. Although you cannot group items or group select items, you can still slot items on top of some surfaces. So when you have a table, you can find an item such as a candle. And as you can see, the table has its own grid. This means that you can slot that item onto that table. Now, if you pick up the table, the candle will be moving with it. Now, it's important to note that if you do move this candle at all with the advanced mode, it will not be slotted onto the table anymore. So therefore, if you move the table, it will not be moving with it. But you can always place it back on the table afterwards. The same applies when scaling things. So when you are scaling things, it's not there anymore slotted onto the table, but you can always place it on top of the table again, which allows it to move with the table once again. And yes, I have said table, move, slotted, all of that many times now. Now, as we went through the keybinds, you can see on the right side that I can move this without even touching the arrows. So I'm just using page up and down to put it up and down, or just use my arrow keys to move it around. Also, this means that this item is not now slotted onto the table because it's technically hovering in the air. So you can't move it with it, but you can always grab it and then place it down. Important to note that if you delete this table now, it will not be deleting the items on top of it. So they will stay behind, just hovering in the air. Now, advanced mode will let you scale many items up and down, and there's not that many restrictions to it. But there are specific items that you actually cannot scale with it. Those items are pillars and walls. But things like windows, for example, you can scale them up and down. You can also rotate them. It's pretty free what you can do with them. You can also scale doors, for example. So you can make really big doors or really tiny doors. You can also scale platforms. You can make them really big or tiny, and you can make some really amazing designs with these actually. You can make, for example, custom tiling. For example, if you are building in an empty stairwell room, you can use this as a fake floor. Or if you would like to get really fancy with it, you can size these tiles down and then create a custom floor this way as well. Or even custom stepping stones for your outside. And really, you are free to do whatever you want with these platforms because you can put them on the walls, you can put them in the ceiling. The world is your oyster once again. There are also these beams that you can use. You can use them as like sidings for something. You can use them as little pillars. You can use them for so many things. Many people use these for stairs, for example. You also can actually scale these, so you can make them really tiny or really big. Now, you will see, with walls, you can do pretty much everything you can do with all the other items. As you can see, the scaling tool is actually grayed out. Now, as we have been setting our keybinds, let's go back to the options tab and see what our scaling keybinds were. I have set mine to be 8 and 9. To scale Decor up, it's 9 and down to 8. When we go back to Edit House, we go to Advanced Mode and to the Move tool. When you're in this tool, you can press your keybind and it will allow you to scale your item down. So even if you technically cannot scale it with the Shift 3, you can still use the keybinds to scale it up or down to make massive walls or massive pillars or really tiny ones. And you might be wondering, why would I want a massive pillar or a tiny pillar? Actually, that is a good question, but it allows you to get really creative with your house with a lot of details. For example, you could use these pillars as details for your doorways, or you can build custom things with them. One of the custom things that I like to build with pillars is, for example, spiral staircases. So I'll pick up this pillar and I'll take it to my empty stairwell room. As you can see, it's pretty tall and I can make this huge central pillar, and I can technically do whatever I want with it. I really like building my spiral staircases around this pillar. When you scale it up, it won't reach all the way to the top. So you might want to get creative with what you do at the top part of it or at the base of it. I often like to look at the undersides of some items and put them at the top of the pillar to give it some extra detail and just make it look extra fancy. Or maybe you can use it at the base of the pillar, and for example, fountains look absolutely beautiful at the base of these central pillars. You can also use platforms to make a custom platform where you start your staircase. Here's an example of what I did with the Blood Elven pillar. I scaled it up and then I placed it in the middle. I added this sort of water feature to it, and then my staircase. It was super simple to do because at first I just put all of the stairs down on the floor and then I lifted them up one by one, and then I just adjusted them to be perfect. Now, what do you do if you are placing an item onto the wall or the floor or the ceiling and it somehow ends up clipping behind the wall? Let me show you how to fix that situation. Your item is not lost forever, I promise you. So as you can see, when you go into the floor plan, the item is there, but you cannot grab it. So you can actually go into the advanced mode, which then allows you to see this list on the top right corner. This list includes all of the items that you have in your build currently. And as you can see, I have quite a few of them, but I remembered the name, it was the smoke lamp, and I'm able to move it now by clicking it. You can of course go through all of your decor that you have placed, but it might take some time. So remembering the name of the item is helpful obviously, but not necessary though. Now, building upwards in an interior build might be a little bit difficult sometimes because you don't have flying indoors. Now, you might want to actually build a little bit taller builds indoors now that we have the skybox rooms. So if you want to build a facade or maybe a roofline, you might want to get on high ground. Honestly, we are in World of Warcraft, and if you're using a platform to raise yourself up, you don't have enough whimsy. So here I am, offering you a new solution that is full of whimsy, the carpet elevator. No, but you can just lift yourself up with this. If you keep jumping and you perfectly get to the level where the carpet is, you can lift yourself up in the air. You can just hold the arrow if you want. I personally really like using the page up and down keybinds though. You can also go down with the carpet as well, without, taking any fall damage. This allows you to work on details higher up in your build. So this is very useful when you are building, for example, in an empty stairwell room or skybox rooms. Next, let's talk about house XP. And I thought that this build was a pretty good showcase of how many items you can have. And I think that the most important thing about house XP is that you get so many more options for your builds. So you have more objects to work with, you have a bigger budget, you have more rooms to add. You can get these skybox rooms, for example. You'll get lighting options as well because you'll get the Hearthlight Armillary item. This will make your building experience much better. So let's return back to the housing dashboard. That is where you can see your current house level and how much progress you have to make for the next level. So as you can see, I'm level 7 right now, and I have unlocked quite a bit of the different rewards already. But when starting out, you can see that it is a significant change whenever you level up your house. You can get so much more decor placement budget, and you will get new rooms. And honestly, it's not that difficult to do, but it will require some resources. You can earn house XP by collecting new decor pieces. As you can see, under some items it says that you have your first time collection bonus available. You can filter these items by collected or uncollected and those that have collection bonus left still. You can just take the uncollected and the collection bonus ones, and as you can see, you get 10 house XP per item that you collect, and you only get it when you add it to your collection for the first time. So as you can see, it tells you the information of the vendor, the zone where you can find that item from, and the cost of it. For example, this piece of decor also requires you to have the achievement from the Prey feature that is coming in Midnight. Some items you can find from professions, some of them drop from raids or dungeons. But let's go through all of the different sources of decor. So when you are beginning your housing journey, you'll start from the neighborhood town center. This is where all of the vendors for your neighborhood are located. But as you might have noticed, there's also a lot of ethereals walking around here. And this is because of the endeavor that my neighborhood has chosen. And when you complete endeavor tasks, you get some coupons which you can use to buy some decor. Endeavors are something that you do with your neighborhood. So basically, you are completing tasks that will give you coupons and they will give you house XP. And you can use these coupons to buy items from the vendors. These items will unlock as you reach goals in your endeavor. So basically, your entire neighborhood is just gaining XP onto this bar, and then you are unlocking these items from the vendor. And this allows you to also raise your house XP. Next, let's talk about decor that you can get from reputation. So as you can see, this is the renown tab. So there are all of these different reputations, and once you get to the max level or to a specific level, you can gain decor as a reward. So for example, this guy in Donegal is selling renowned rewards, and there's some books, there's some crates and a window, for example. And these will cost some sort of a resource. They might be gold, it might be some sort of a resource, but yeah, just be prepared that there might be different sorts of requirements to pay. Now, another great source of decor that is class specific is your class order halls in Legion. So here we are at the Druid class hall, and I'm going to be showing you where the vendor is here. She will be selling a bunch of decor items, but these are all locked behind achievements. You can find the achievements in the expansion features tab in your achievement panel, and then you will just find the Legion class hall one. Here you can see all of the achievements that you need to work on to unlock the decor pieces. You also earn some decor pieces whenever you complete this achievement, and you are always able to buy more with some order resources. Another great source of decor is raids and dungeons. There are specific dungeons that will drop you decor. For example, the Priory of the Sacred Flame. This overgrown Arathi trellis drops from the last boss and you can run it on any difficulty. And this means also follower dungeons. Some raids also drop decor. As an example, the Nighthold from Legion. Spellblade Alluriel, for example, drops this garden fountain, and this fountain is one of my personal favorites. Another source of decor is the shop. This will not be giving you the most decor ever, but they are adding some there slowly. Luckily, these plushy decor packs, for example, are very good value for the price. You get 8 items for €5. I thought that I would just include this as an option to get decor just because it exists, but I totally understand that some people do not want to spend real money on decor in a game. The next source of decor will be the auction house. There is a tab called Housing now in the auction house, and you can find decor there. This decor is crafted, so you can make decor with professions now, and in Midnight there will be plenty more. As you can see, it can get pretty pricey though really fast, so I would not necessarily recommend this or the shop to be your first stop when collecting decor. There are plenty of other places where you can get decor much cheaper. Also, an important note, you can do crafting orders for decor as well. So if your friend has a specific profession that you don't have, you can just collect the lumber yourself and then you can go and do a crafting order for them. Next, let's talk about all the ways that you can find vendors who sell these items. So first of all, you can shift-click the items in the decor catalog to track the item. Of course, if it's a crafted item, you can't do that, but the other items that are located in raids or dungeons, for example, can be tracked, or vendors even. This way you can find them easier, but there are add-ons that will make your life a lot easier, and I will be going over a very helpful add-on list at the end of the video. Now your minimap will also show you the locations of vendors when you are close to them, but I've noticed that if you have a quest, for example, with the vendor, or the vendor is giving a low-level quest or any quest, it will override the vendor icon. Alright, let's talk about storage. So currently there is a cap of 5,000 decor items that you can have in your storage. You can technically lock yourself from getting more. And currently you can't always destroy all of the items either. There are some items that you can destroy and some that you can't. And of course it will feel really bad if you have to destroy items that you bought with gold or resources that you've grinded for. So just be very aware of this and buy only a few of each item to begin with, because this might end up being a problem later on. They have also said now that they're going to be raising the cap by 50%, so we'll see how much that helps. I'm sure that in Midnight we'll get so much more decor that this is going to be an issue soon again, but we'll see. So I mentioned dice before, and you can get them from the auction house or you can craft them yourself. There are many different colors to choose from, and it can be a little bit overwhelming when you're looking at it in the auction house. So I would recommend you to check out a few different resources to check the colors and how they look on items before you buy your die. And as I said, you can also make your own die, so you can do it with inscription or alchemy. And there's an NPC actually in the neighborhood town center, and you can talk to them and they will let you know more about the whole process. There are some amazing resources to check the different colors, and one of them actually also lists all of the herbs that you will be needing from the other expansions. So this picture has all of the information you need about dyes, all of the herbs that you need to make it yourself, and also it has previews of the different colors. And all credit for this goes to Kido. Decor also has a wonderful video about color theory, which is super helpful. The Wowhead has posted on their website this beautiful preview of all of the different dyes used on some items, where you can see perfectly how they look in game. And this was created by Artistar in the Architects of Azeroth Discord server, so all credit to them. This is a great resource to have. So sometimes when you're decorating, it can be a little bit tricky to see what you're doing because your character might be in the way. This is especially really frustrating when you're trying to build from a little bit further away and you can't see properly and you don't always want to be fully zoomed in. There's a wonderful add-on created by Mr. GM. You can use this camera tool and you can hide your character. Many creators use this just to get very cinematic shots of their new builds. Many people also hide their characters while building, and I think it's just brilliant that you can do this. So let's say that you have teleported somewhere and your Hearthstone back to Stormwind, for example, is on cooldown as well, or your teleport back to Stormwind is on cooldown and you're not a mage. What do you do to get back to your house? You can log another character. Another way to do it is actually teleport to your neighbor's house. Now I'm going to be using my friend Kaya's house to get back to my own house. We are in the same neighborhood, so this will work. Basically, what I do is I view his houses and then I visit the house that is in the same neighborhood as mine. And this way I can get back to my own build really easily. And if they're online, it's obviously polite to say hi to your friends. But as you can see, I have made it back to the neighborhood and there is my own house as well. It's pretty easy and simple. You can add your neighbors to your battle.net, for example, and then you have a way to always teleport back. Now, you might have seen other people do builds with water in them. For example, building a pond or some sort of a waterfall. And let me show you how that is done. Your new best friend is the circular woolen rug. This is not just a meme, it's truly one of the best items in the game. It's very versatile to use as backdrops and also for water. So what you want to do is you scale it up, you flip it upside down as well, and then you sink it a little bit to the ground. Now you have your pond. Obviously it doesn't have a whole lot of detail to it or any sort of animation to it. So what people do is they add fountains and they clip them under the ground. But you have to scale them down a little bit as they cannot be fully sunk to the ground when they are max size. You can just clip it down under the ground and bring it up just enough so that there are some little splatters, or they might even look like little ripples or reflections. This is a way that I personally do it. There are many items that you can experiment with to make running water. For example, there is an item called the Tide Sage Totem, and this can be used for splashes or just like a waterfall because it has really nice physics as well. That's just a little idea that you can use. Next, let's talk about the Hearthlight Armillary. This is an item that you get when you get level 6 housing. You get this item called the Hearthlight Armillary. When you use it, you can click on it when you're not in the build mode and you can set your lighting. This will make the aesthetic of your house much better because you can set the lighting to set the mood. So let's preview the different settings in my build now. There's just the default one, then there is this natural light, there's an unnatural dark lighting mode, evening calm, and the midnight setting. This setting is truly so beautiful. I haven't built with it much yet, but it allows you to make your build just pop when you use specific items, and some items look completely different in this lighting mode. Here are some examples of items that look just so beautiful with this lighting. Honestly, just experiment with different sorts of items that you place down, the lighting settings. You might be surprised what you can find with items that you have. Some of them actually look so amazing in the midnight lighting mode. So yeah, honestly, just experiment with things and you can create some amazing custom builds. How do you bring life to your build? And I would say the best way to do it is to use animated items and just bring storytelling to your build. For example, adding some coins to a fountain, which was an idea by my friend Botanical. Just adding items that this place is lived in, some splatters, or just some tiny little details. For example, here I just added a part of a vine on the board and then some green stones, so it looked like they were actually chopping down some herbs. And also you can tell so many stories with your builds. You can make things look like actually people have been there. Obviously right now we don't have any NPCs roaming about or any pets, but that will change soon. We will be getting pets in our build soon. And yeah, as you can see, I add a bunch of little tiny details to my build just to make it look like there's a story and there are people who have been here. For example, there's an ink splatter and then some papers that have fallen to the ground. I also really enjoy using animated items, and that just makes things look like it's not just frozen in time in my build. For example, there are coffee mugs where I would imagine that people would be having their morning coffee when they're working, for example. Sometimes I like to add tiny little surprises for my friends who will be snooping around. Now, when you start building, I think it's really fun to use these window items, but the light from them can be a little bit strange, especially if it's midnight outside in your skybox room, for example, but then suddenly there is a bright light coming in from the window. There is a way to make custom windows with actual scenery outside. Add a tiny little closet to your room, then you can add a beam just sort of to create this frame for your window. You can size it up so you get this nice little surface to work with. Next, let's make a backdrop for your window. And for this, we'll be using the circular woolen rug again. And this really shows you how versatile this item is, especially when you dye it, you can make some amazing backdrops. For now, we'll just use the default blue color. Next, you'll want to add some plants, or whatever else you would see outside of your window. You can just make so many different sceneries. I personally also have made a bunch of different ones. For example, one had northern lights. And then if you want to add some lighting to your build, you can get really fancy with it. You could just leave the window like this now, but I really like to add some lighting to my builds. And for this, I will be using the Mechacon hanging floodlight. I size it up and then I clip it in the room inside a wall a little bit so that I can angle it perfectly to look like the light from the moon, for example. Now all that we are missing is the actual window. And as you can see, you can't see through it that way, but if you rotate your window, you can see through it. The easy way now is to just turn it and then size it up and just place it perfectly so that you have a custom window with a view. Now the final touch would be some nice curtains, and then you can add tiny little details to the surface that you have created. For example, some books or a little seat maybe with a pillow, anything you can think of to just make a nice little scene. And there it is, you have created your first custom window. So here are some of the options that Plumber adds to housing, for example. There are a bunch of helpful tools for you to use. For example, my favorite is probably being able to copy paste items by using Alt and also copying dies. And then of course there is the clock and then the source info. Using the housing Hearthstone and being able to put it on your bars is super helpful as well. So let's test out the copy paste. You press Alt, as you can see on the right side, and that creates another one as long as you have copies of that item in your storage. And let's test out the dye. So here we have two different colors. I press right click on that when I'm in the customers tool, and then I can press Ctrl left click to apply the dye into the other one. And you just click apply. It doesn't make the apply button gray, so just know that you have applied it now and it will stay. I got a bit confused by that at the start. Homebound is a great add-on to find vendors and sources of decor, so you can filter things by if you've collected it or if not, but I personally like to hide the completed ones so that I can collect more decor that I'm still missing. As you can see, there are things that are unlockable, so there are achievements and quests, for example, and then there are vendors. And if you right click these vendors, you can add a map pin, and this will show you where you need to go. As you can see, there's a location, and also if you left click, you can see what the item looks like. So it's a very helpful tool just to see and preview items and find the vendors. As you can see, you just get the map pin. It's super easy to use. And to be clear, the map pin is from TomTom, so you need to have that add-on as well. Also for professions, you can just click the different items that you like, that you would like to make, and you can see the required reagents that you need. This makes it a lot easier to shop from the auction house, for example, or collect them. Finally, we are going to go over some of these things that they announced that are coming in future updates. So there will be exterior lighting and exterior limits, of course, to lighting as well. There will be more endeavors, and there will be the import and export tool, which allows you to import whole layouts. You can also bring your pets home, so you can have your battle pets roaming around, and then there will be showcase and visitor codes. So now we've come to the end of the guide, so thank you so much if you watched, and I hope that this was very helpful for you. Feel free to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want more guides like this. As always, happy building!